So one of the things that I had said to you guys is that you should color in your character. And as I have been going around and watching some of you attempt to do that, it was a little harder for some people to do than I had anticipated, mostly because I hadn't done something like what I'm about to do. And I had to show you how to do it and how to do it as easily as possible. One of the problems with what we've done as we've drawn this guy is, if you notice, I'm gonna mess up my motion tween here for a second, but if I pull him down there like that, you can't see him anymore because the white isn't actually white, it's transparent on our guy. There's actually no color there. And it's actually a really important distinction to make, especially in computer graphics and computer animation, that sometimes there's such a thing as transparent versus white, and sometimes it's really hard to see that something actually doesn't even have a color, that white is actually a color in this case. If I were to do something as simple as put in a blue sky, okay, it becomes readily apparent that our guy is transparent. And so what we want to do is we want to give him some color. Now, if you've already put him into a symbol, it's as easy as just double-clicking. Now, the bad part about this is you do have to color every frame because we've animated this guy frame by frame. What some people were trying to do is they were trying to use the paint bucket to dump in. So let's just say want some like blue jeans kind of a thing here. Maybe something a little grayer. By the way, when you're choosing colors, you don't have to use these colors. You can click on this and it will give you the little color wheel. So I can kind of choose more of a denim-y, grayish, light blue color there. Now, if I want to do that and I hit I hope this doesn't work because I didn't try it ahead of time, but it shouldn't work. If I try and click with the paint bucket, you'll notice it doesn't dump the color in there. And some people have said, but it's closed, Mr. Weisbrod, it's closed. There should be no reason why the paint bucket doesn't work. Well, to your eye, it's closed. But if you zoom in, you might even see little spaces like that where it's not closed. And then you can go in and with another brush and add it. But really, if I go in and I use the white arrow tool and I click on these lines here, okay, what you'll notice is that when you use the paintbrush tool, there's actually different sets of lines. You can just click on one of these. Sometimes everything will highlight, but then you see how that one highlights separately. As you're drawing, a lot of times it will create multiple objects. And even if they technically overlap so that there's no open space, a lot of times the paint bucket won't work because it's not one object. So you might say, well, Mr. Weisbrod, that stinks. I don't want to deal with that. I would rather, have it just work. Well, I'm sorry, but it doesn't. It's going to be my only answer. However, there is a way around this. The next thing that I've seen some people try, let's say we're going to give this guy a red shirt and blue jeans, okay? The next thing people have tried is just paint with the color. So we can give him a nice red color and get our paintbrush, and let's get a bigger brush here. So I hit the bracket keys on my keyboard and I can get a bigger brush. A lot of times the bigger brush thing shows up over here. Oh, there they are. Just didn't have enough room. You can change the brush size here. And I can just start coloring. But the problem with this is I might go over my lines. And let's say I go over really badly, and I don't like that. And instead of hitting undo, I try and delete it. Now I got a hole in the guy's chest. Because what happens is the red actually replaces the black, right? And we don't want that either. So there's a really simple solution to this. Let me undo all this. And that is to use the layers. We've got all these layers up here, okay? Well, we've only got one, but we can add more. And so we can use this to our advantage. So the first thing I can do is make a new layer, and let's just call this the red shirt. And the neat thing is you can have all of these different layers residing within the symbol, and then the animation will still work too, like the motion tween that I showed you guys how to put on this guy, that'll still work. So now I can just sit here and take the paintbrush and start painting, right? But that looks kind of messy, number one. Number two, sometimes it's going to be really hard to stay to stay inside the lines. But if I'm really trying to be careful and not touch my lines, what I'll do is I'll get these gaps, right? You see those gaps? Those don't help us. So again, it's a little difficult. However, if I'm thinking, well, all I need to do is take my layer here and swing it underneath the other one. See that? Now I can paint as much as I want, and when I let go, because it's underneath the outlines layer, the outlines basically stay untouched. So now, excuse me, let's give this guy a red shirt and watch what's about to happen, how I'm going to do this, because I'm going to do this really smart. You could sit there and paint it, and it would take you all day long. But if you create a closed shape with the red, then you'll be able to use the paint bucket tool. So really simply, we'll just do a short sleeve shirt. So I'm just going to click, and I'm not going to let go of the button. And go down here, and I'm purposely overlapping a little bit here too. So that there aren't any gaps. So I'm purposely drawing over top of my black lines there. Now, make sure that you go around and you close the shape. Now I can go in with the paint bucket and boom. That makes it a lot easier, doesn't it? Oh boy, now I can paint my guy in frame by frame in a way that's really, really, really simple. Okay, and a lot easier. So let's just let's do those the blue jeans here. I'm not going to go try and find that color again, so we're just going to use this one. So again, I could mess around with it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create a whole new layer, and I'm just going to use a layer for everything. So these will be the blue jeans. So I'm making blue jeans. So making a new layer for every article of clothing probably isn't a bad idea, okay? You know, that way you can control them, you can overlap them, you don't have to worry about one intruding on the other. It doesn't really affect the way you've drawn your character or, you know, anything as far as that's concerned. So it's definitely a lot smarter to do that. So here we go, blue jeans again. I'm just going to grab my brush. And I actually realized I did the shirt a little oddly. So I'm just going to make a new thing here like this. And again, I'm just going to go down here, being very careful not to let go of the button so that I create a nice, even object that is enclosed so that I can use the paint bucket tool. Almost done. Make sure I close it. What is it doing? Oh, it's thinking. Why is it not finishing? So anyway, I finished it, and now it's being flash. But once it's done thinking here, I think it's auto-saving. Yep, it's been about 10 minutes since I opened this up. So once it's done auto-saving, what I can do is just use my paint bucket, and you're going to watch the paint bucket will just dump the color right in. Now, the other thing to keep in mind as far as this is concerned, again, separate things by layer. Make sure, oh boy, that's a small problem. Again, this is a good argument. So you see how that happened, right? This is an excellent argument for keeping things on separate layers. Because if my blue jeans were on the same layer as my red shirt, now I couldn't go and erase them because the blue would have replaced the red color, right? And my only recourse would be to hit undo, which would undo the entire outline. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to get to my eraser, and if I erase very carefully here, I hate how the eraser doesn't show you what's really doing. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to lock those 2 layers. There we go. In that case, the eraser was showing me what it was doing. There we go. So now I can go ahead and still take my paint bucket and I can fill that in. Notice it didn't fill here because I probably connected those 2, but it'll still work there. Now we're just going to go back to our red shirt here, unlock that layer, and just take my brush, and I'm going to get my red color back here, like that. Take the brush, and I'll just finish it off here like this. And that's an easy one to redo. There we go. So now you can see how very quickly I was able to fill my character in, give him some colors. Now obviously I need to do the face and the arms and the feet and everything like that too, because he's still, you know, see-through. But now what's interesting is you can go through and go to the next keyframe here. You're going to have to create keyframes for your clothing as well. But some of it won't have changed. Now some of it will have changed. You have the option to just delete and start over again or not. So here I'm just going to create a new keyframe for my blue jeans. And if I want to, I could just, you know, click on them and hit the eraser key. And I don't like how Flash does that. So maybe just use the eraser. And start all over again is probably the easiest thing to do, you know. Done. And the red shirt too, you know. So then I'll lock that and just start all over again. And that probably helps a lot, and then you just keep doing it. This might also be a good place for onion skinning, okay? Somehow I just deleted all of my red shirt. I'm not quite sure how that just happened. Oh, because I didn't make a new keyframe. Ha-ha. How about that? Now I can erase it, and it won't affect anything else. There we go. I don't understand why it does that sometimes. But I can just start painting again with my red, and again, that paint bucket tool will come in quite handy for filling in stuff like this. Now, one last thing. It might help you to have onion skinning on, as I just said, so that you can really start to see, you know, how things are going or where things were, so that you can compare how the shirt looks from one frame to the next. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to be consistent, both in color as well as in shape. So the main thing that I would be worried about here is where's the waistline, where's the belt, okay, and where's the sleeves and the neck, you know, the neck hole. Where is that? Where are those things situated? Because you don't want those to move around. You don't want his short sleeves to be like right in the middle of his bicep, and then the next frame they go all the way down to his elbow or beyond his elbow, right? So that might be a good reason to have onion skinning on. A bad reason for a reason not to have onion skinning on is it could get a little confusing in places with a lot of these extra things. But that's up to you and how you want to work. But does this make sense? And what we're doing is we're taking advantage of the fact that we've got all these layers available to us. You can have this character, every little thing can be on a different layer. So once we start doing facial expressions and all that sort of stuff, that should be on a different layer so that you can control each part of your character individually. And if you mess up on that individual part, you don't mess up the rest of the body either. And I think that's a really key an important concept for you to really understand now. For those of you who've worked in Photoshop or other programs in the past, this will be second nature for you. But for those of you who haven't, I just have to re-emphasize, use separate layers for as many objects as you possibly can. You can always copy and paste it back into another layer later if you need to. It's better to have too many layers than not enough, in my opinion. That's definitely the lesser of two evils, because you will be sorry if you don't put things on separate layers from now on. So you've got the outline, you've got the basic guy. Now you need to start adding some details, clothing, that sort of stuff. Make sure you do it on separate layers. Any questions? Okay.